Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and welcome to my beginner guide for Zenless Zone Zero. This is gonna be a multiple series video. We are gonna begin today's very first content with some of the pre-release stuff, such as how the game functions, some of the units, basically the normal information you would expect from the game. And then further on, going into the future, we are gonna be going into more in-depth guides, such as Alan's guide, team building mechanics, more in-depth team building mechanics. This drives, bang boost, what's the best unit to level, best team comp tier, this kind of stuff. So this is going to be my pretty much first video right before Zenless Zone Zero is going to be releasing. As of the time of recording, this is currently the 3rd of July. Zenless Zone Zero should be releasing in less than, I believe, 15 hours, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into today's content. Subscribe! So, Zenless Zone Zero. Disclaimers, right? Based on CBD3, most of the info will still be relevant up to 1.0, but as we have seen from the developer live stream, we are going to be getting new zones and new implementations on how the game is going to work, as well as new events. So do expect a little bit of changes here and there. And we will also be using a lot of Honkai Starbucks or Genshin Impact terminologies if this is going to be your first time playing a Hoyoverse game, or if this is the first time viewing a content from MrPokke's channel, right? So my channel is mainly family-friendly content. You can see from my chat, they will all say yep when we do say family-friendly content. So yeah, looking forward to providing you guys a lot of nuclear Zenless Zone Zero reactions, right? So secondly, applies to all players, not just free players, those spenders. You cannot will your way out of an efficient team building and stamina usage. This is going to be especially true for Zenless Zone Zero, because unlike, for example, Honkai Starbucks, Zenless Zone Zero is going to be an action RPG. So your piloting skills and all kind of stuff, it will still impact your rotations. It's going to be a lot more responsive to your player input, right? So that's going to be that. And lastly, these are just guidelines and they are not rules. And at the end of the day, a game is meant to be enjoyed, right? That's the whole point of the game. And the content I'm offering today for you guys, as well as all of the future days, is going to be aiming at improving our player experience through improving your efficiency during your time in Zenless Zone Zero. All right, cool. So, this is gonna be our table of content, so it's gonna be a pretty long video. I can foresee this video being roughly 40-ish minutes long, but usually by my normal talking speed, it should be roughly around 30 minutes because I talk really fast. But because this is probably gonna be the first time you guys are watching my video for Zenless Zone content, I am going to reduce my talking speed to a little bit more of a digestible portion, right? So if you guys prefer the old fast Pokke, feel free to speed up this video to 1.5, but I will be speaking a little bit slower to kind of just make this a little bit more understandable, right? Because I've been getting a lot of feedbacks from YouTube comments saying that I just yap way too fast. It is what it is. So yeah, we're going to be going through what is Zenless Zone Zero, the basic terminologies, gameplay, modes, shop guide, combat mechanics, as well as early progression. So that's going to be our 6 core components for today. In the future, we're going to be taking a deep dive look into like our disk drives, engines, pull, meta, tier list. But today is just going to be a very, very basic summary of what this game is about, right? So the very, very first topic on what exactly is Zenless Zone Zero. It is a third-person ARPG gacha game. Emphasis on combat, much less so on exploration. So if you have been someone that's playing games like Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves, Zenless Zone Zero is going to be somewhat of an opposite. There is going to be a more heavy emphasis on combat. There's not a lot of exploration, right? The open world is pretty much non-existent. You are just limited to a couple of towns here and there, a couple of zones here and there. But exploration is very, very minimal. It is largely a very, very combat-focused gacha game, right? Comparable to Punishing Grey Raven or Honkai Impact 3. And it also has similar endgame with Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact, which is going to be our Spiral Abyss, our Similar Universe, our Memory of Chaos, etc., etc. And I would not be surprised if we are going to be getting new endgame content going in the future, because that has been what has been happening for Honkai Star Rail, as you can see from the pure as well as Apocalypse Shadows, right? So don't be surprised if we get more game modes in the future. The story in Zenless Zone Zero is completely skippable, although some of the cutscenes, they are not skippable. And I would highly recommend players, if you guys are into one of the best strengths to Zenless Zone Zero, is going to be their absolutely buttery, velvety, smooth animations. Absolutely insane. I touch my heart when I say this. Zenless Zone Zero animations right now, it is one of the best in the entire gacha sphere. It is much more, it's just so fluid. And it would be a damn shame if you guys, you know, just try to skip through this. So me personally, I would strongly advise you guys to try to enjoy these cutscenes, right? If you guys are not lore enjoyers, if you guys only want to play the game, be it for the abobas, for the combat, you can in fact skip through pretty much 90% of the story, which is very, very nice, right? And this has been a unprecedented option in a Hoyoverse game, because in Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, it has never been possible to skip through a story until Zenless Zone Zero. So very, very nice. And then dailies, weeklies, gacha, upgrade structure. If you guys have been playing Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail, it is pretty much exactly the same. So I'll just kind of be showing you guys the kind of reference later on. And one little thing to note is that the user interface in Zenless Zone Zero is going to be a little bit different compared to Genshin Impact and Honkai Starbucks. So you do need a little bit of getting used to, but other than that, the core structure of the game is still the same. You pull units, you make them stronger, and you farm relics, and that's pretty much it. Then you tackle the Endgame counter, right? So yeah, that's gonna be that for what exactly is Zenless Zero. Just going to some of the freebies for you guys. We have all of these codes, and you guys can kind of zoom in. Editor can kind of zoom in here. Essentially, for a estimated free-to-play pool income is gonna be roughly 150 limited summons and 130 standard summons on top of 80 bamboo summons. Roughly speaking, right? This is from you simply just playing the game. The detailed breakdown, you can kind of just take a look at the Excel sheet. My editor can just slap it on over here. A huge shout out to the creator to make this. My editor can also just credit the name over here. I can't forget it is what it is. But yeah, this is gonna be one of the freebies. And another freebie that we are going to be getting is going to be all of these 4-star or rather A rank agents, right? Every single one of these A rank agents, they are completely free as long as you are playing the game. So Billy, Nicole, NB, the bear, Huan Huan, so Kaku, as well as Lucy, they are all completely free. You guys don't have to spend a single cent, play the game, and you are going to get them. Every single agent in Zenless Zone Zero, they're pretty much viable. You don't really have to just use S-rank agents, or rather the 5-star in this game, because team building is very, very fluid. And a lot of 4-star units, or rather A-rank units, they can be very, very strong. For me personally, in my CBD 3 playing experience, Billy was a complete monster, because Blood just went full American and just shot everything. And I took note, it was just great. It was great, and the developers really put in a lot of time into developing for every single one of these units, disregarding if they are A rank or S rank, right? And feel free to take the time to invest and explore, because you do have 7 free units on top of the 5-star they're going to be getting, right? Or any of the units they're going to be putting for. So just invest them and try them out, because pre-level 30, it is relatively cheap to invest in unit. If you guys are Honkai Star or Genshin Impact players, you guys will probably understand what I'm saying. Pre-level 30 before you get to the heavier tracers, the heavier ascensions, it is very, very easy to just raise your units and just go ahead and test them out for yourself. And then eventually, when you finalize on a team that you want to stick to, then go ahead and hyper invest in them, right? So that is going to be our freebies. And jumping into our basic terminology, a huge shout out to this website right here. You can take a look at this guide yourself. So it basically explains to you which of these items refer to which of these items in Zenless Zone. So if you're a Genshin Impact player, feel free to take a look at what the Primo Gems is equivalent to, which is polygrams, and then in Honkai Starbucks, Stellar Jades, and then all this kind of stuff. So just take a look in your own reference. So very, very good resource. You can just take a look over here. But essentially, battery is going to be your stamina. I highlighted some of the more important things. Berry is going to be your stamina / resin. Yeah, we're going to be doing a 6-time max refresh. It's going to be 700 polychromes, right? 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, and 200. So every single additional, it will cost you a little bit more. Danny is going to be your credits. Polychrome is basically a Stellar Jade and Primo Gem. So this is going to be a polychrome, right? This little rainbow thing over here. Monochrome is going to be your paid currency, which is your honoric shards or your Genesis crystals. So unfortunately, they didn't show it over here, but it's basically a black and white version of this. Master Tape is going to be your standard summon, right? This is your Master Tape, your standard summon. And Encrypted Master Tape is your limited summon, right? And Bupon is a brand new item that we have in Zenless Zone Zero. It is not shown over here. It is basically a sort of like a friendship summoning system. You cannot whale for Bupons or Pangbu banners in Zenless Zone Zero. You can only get them through game activities. So you can't even spend money to get Pangbus. So trade off this, like if you have played like Nikkei, it is like your friendship points. You cannot get this other from playing the game itself. For this, it's not friendship, but it's just playing the game, like game activities. But that's basically how Bumble works. Agents is your units. W engine is your Litecoin / weapon. This drive disc is your relic / artifacts. Bumble is a brand new battle pad system. I think if you guys are Honkai Impact 3 players, there might be something similar. But me myself, I have not played Honkai Impact 3, so I don't know what this is. Shiyu Defense is gonna be your Spiral Abyss or Memory of Chaos. 2 teams for later stage as well. Polo Zero is gonna be your simulated universe. Right? So these are the rough analogies that you can remember if you have tried trouble transitioning from a Honkai Starbucks into a Zenless Zone Zero player. Another one is gonna be the gacha system. So very briefly, if you guys are first time playing a Hoyoverse game, this is gonna be how a gacha system works in Hoyoverse games. I understand that for Hoyoverse games specifically, it might not be similar to a lot of the other gacha games, because I'm honest, I'm familiar that Hoyoverse itself is like a very monolithic gacha structure, whereas a lot of the other gacha games, it's very different, right? So if it's the first time playing Hoyoverse games, this is gonna be it. 160 polychrome for 1 summon, 0.6% 5-star agent at 1.6% with pity. Engine banner is gonna be 1%. That's right. The weapon banner in Zenless Zone Zero is actually 1% to get the S rank. 2% with pity. So this is in fact slightly higher than both Honkai Starbucks and Genshin Impact. So that's very nice. 90 hard pity for your units, 80 hard pity for your engine, 75 soft pity / 65 soft pity, right? And every single temple will guarantee a A rank unit, right? Be it a engine or a agent. For the limited banner, it's gonna be a 50-50. For the engine banner or the limited weapon banner, it's gonna be a 75-25. So that's gonna be very similar to Honkai Starbucks. The Bangbu banner is gonna be the brand new system introduced in Zenless Zone Zero. So this Bangbu banner right here, it is 80 PT, but 100% win rate. You can pretty much select any Bangbu you want, log in, and that will be the Bangbu you are going to get. You will never lose on the Bangbu banner. Unfortunately, for the Bangbu summons, the little tokens, you can only get them from game activity, like I mentioned earlier. So you cannot whale on a Bangbu banner. You can't have an S5, S20 Bangbu or whatever it is, right? So it is what it is. But I do want to stress this point. This is based on the CBT experience as well. Save your Bangbu pools for future Bangbus, because we have a limited amount of game currency. From what I've seen from the CN content creators, CN streamers playing Zenless Zone Zero profusely in CBD3, is that they realize that they have very limited amounts of Bangbu banners, the summons, and once these events, which are usually one-time clears, you will start to have a drought for Bangbu summons. And they also notice that Bangbus, they don't change everything, essentially. So you can quite frankly just use any Bangbu. The differences between them is very minimal. Just use any Bangbu to get you through the day, and perhaps consider saving up your Bangbu pools for future Bangbus that's gonna be coming. So right now, the first one we're getting is the Butler, right? And this is gonna be in tandem with the Victoria Housekeeping, which is gonna be the Ellen Jones banner. So in the future, if they release more and more Bangbus, then you could consider pooling for those instead. Because right now, as it stands, the S rank Bangbus they're alright. They're alright, right? It's okay. You can completely do without them. So that's just a potential for you guys to consider. If you guys want to pool, then sure, feel free, go for it. Because we are getting 80 Bangbu summons at the start of the game. So you are definitely guaranteed a 1 S rank Bangbu. But the advice is just save it for a little bit, right? That's going to be that for the limited and weapon banner. And then for the standard banner, it's going to be the beginner and the standard. 20% discount, pool 50 at the price of 40. But the good part about Zenless Zone Zero's beginner banner is that it does in fact carry over to the standard banner, which is something that not even Honkai Starbucks was able to obtain. Which means if you were to pool 50 times in the beginner banner, you will instantly start your mileage in the standard banner at 50 out of 300 instead of going to 0. The mileage will refer to the 5-star standard selector upon reaching 300 pools in the standard banner, right? So keep in mind, for your standard summons, it will be including both agents and engines in the normal pool. For your beginner standard, you are definitely guaranteed 1 S rank agent, 100%. But for your normal standard banner, which is somewhat like Honkai Starbucks, right? You could get a light cone, you could get a unit, you could get an engine, you could get an agent, right? So that's gonna be completely up to RNG. But once you got 300 summons, then you can select one of these 7 agents right here to your liking. Never ever use monochromes for standard summons, because some of you guys, if you guys are new to a Hoyoverse game, you might think, oh my god, I need this selector. To put into perspective, 300 summons is equivalent to $600 US. And this $600 US, it can also be used on the limited banner unit. So if you are brand new to a Hoyoverse game, never ever do this unless you're an absolute giga whale that does not give a flying fuck about how financially irresponsible you are, then feel free to go ahead. But for 99.99% of the play, never ever use the polychromes for the standard banner. Just slowly over time, you're going to be getting these standard pools from missions, from leveling up your agents, for promotions, and all these kind of events. You're going to slowly make your way up to 300 pools anyways, completely free to play, right? So it is highly recommended to save your summons only for the limited banner, right? So that's going to be that. And now jumping into the gameplay modes. In Zenless Zone Zero, I am very happy to say that the devs have actually listened and they have pretty much removed 90% of the TV mode across every single gameplay. The only mode left in Zenless Zone Zero that actually still have TV is going to be the story as well as the explore, right? This is the only portion left with TV, which is absolutely insane. They removed everything, right? So this is the only mode. Combat has no TV, right? This combat right here, you are just straight away fighting the boss fight itself or the waves or whatever. Story and explore, they will have their own respective modes of TV. They are all single time clear for the most part, and they also have a hard mode once you unlock the normal mode, right? There's also a challenge / casual mode. So this one is different from hard mode and normal mode. Hard mode is a brand new wave, which you have enemies that are a lot more higher levels and can do a fresh clear again. But the casual and challenge, there's absolutely no difference. It is just making the game artificially harder so that for those sweaty players that want to flex that, oh my god, I did it in challenge mode, then feel free to go for it. But there is absolutely no additional rewards, no additional achievements, nothing. It is just for players who want to suffer, right? Or streamers when their chat force them to play this game in challenge mode. So that's gonna be that for the story combat explore, and then we also have a rally commission. This is a brand new mode, a weekly combat challenge, similar to the normal combat challenge. So this is gonna be a addition, expansion towards the combat challenge. After you clear the first 2 stages, you will unlock this weekly resettable stage, which gives you another sort of a weekly resource, right? So think of this as an expansion. It is not like MOC or similar universe. It's just a brand new mode for players to just explore the combat a little bit more. You're gonna be fighting different bosses, different waves, and all the kind of stuff. So that's gonna be that. And then the next category is gonna be the farming modes. This is the only mode in Zenless Zone Zero that will require the use of your batteries or basically your stamina. Previously in CBD2, your stories, your combat, your exploit, everything cost stamina. Now, they listened and they removed the stamina cost to everything. So the only thing that costs stamina right now in Zenless Zone Zero is going to be the farming stages, right? And these are going to be split into the 4 main categories of farming, right? This is going to be your combat, right? Helix Gold Rate, will be your tracers, your basic upgrades, 20 battery per 1 card, right? So your Danny, agent promotion, agent skill, engine promotion. So all this is basically, if you guys have played in Genshin Impact Honkai style, it is very familiar. So your very basic combat farming. And then Cavern of Corrosion is gonna be your driver validation. So this is the part where you start to farm your endgame relics, your artifacts, your disc drives. Do not farm this in the early game. I'll be saying this again later on for the early progression, right? Do not farm these drives in the early game. Your number 1 priority as a new player is to absolutely raise up your levels, raise up your tracers, raise up your engines, and ignore everything else. Your drivers, you are getting a couple of free drivers anyways from completing the mission, and just make use of them before you commit to it. A good point to start farming for drivers would be around level 40 and above. That's when you can start to ensure that you get gold drivers, right? Your S rank drivers. So that's going to be really good. 60 battery for 1 round of the driver. Stagnant Shadow is going to be the equivalent to your expert challenge, which is basically your boss mats, right? Your essential materials. Not too much too crazy. 40 battery, that's going to be that. And then your Echoes of War is going to be your reckless challenge. 3 times a week, 40 battery. This is the only farming mode that you can co-op with your friends. Insane chat. So you can actually play with your friends during this reckless challenge to fight the Echoes of War. So these are basically the main bosses in Zenless Zone Zero. So these, it is one of the spoiler. So if you're not interested in spoiler, then don't spoil this thing. This is gonna be one of the main story bosses. Then this is gonna be the example of the expert challenge. Then this is gonna be your disc drivers, and this is gonna be the combat simulation, right? So these are the only modes in Zenless Zone Zero that will actually cost stamina / battery, and you will be pretty much spending not a very long time actually, because for Zenless Zone Zero they have a unique system, like a card system where you can customize your cards and instantly dump. It's kind of like a quick stack option if you guys have played other gacha games, like a skip function, right? But not really skip. You can choose which cards you want and you will expand the amount of battery accordingly. So for example, if you want to do like 5 runs of EXP, it will instantly consume 100 battery. So doing dailies or like consuming stamina in Zenless Zone Zero, you can say that it is technically faster than Honkai Starbucks or Genshin Impact because you can stack them on and instantly clear all of them from a single run, right? So that is going to be a pretty decent quality of life for players that don't really want to spend a lot of time in Zenless Zone Zero, right? Okay, and the final gameplay mode in Zenless Zone Zero is going to be the endgame. 2 main endgame: Shield Defense which is basically the Memory of Chaos or the Spiral Abyss, or the Holo Zero. It is more similar to Spiral Abyss than Memory of Chaos because this is basically a time-gated endgame content, right? Your stars, the 0 to 3 stars, it is based on the time it would take for you to clear the stage, which is like Spiral Abyss. In Memory of Chaos version, in Honkai Star Rail, it's gonna be your action value, right? You have to deal with 10 cycles, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, treat it as this. 0 to 3 stars here based on the time it took. 10 stages, 300 polychrome per 3 star each, which means you can get 3,000 polychromes for the full clear. Teams of 3, later on, there will be stages where eventually when you reach stage 6 and above, that's when you will start to use teams of 2 different teams of 3, right? In the early game, you really don't have to invest in so many different teams. Just like Honkai Starbucks, just like Genshin Impact, only focus on a single team, make that the strongest you can be, and just clear as hard as you can. Don't have to think about the 2-team content yet until probably a couple of days or even a couple of weeks later for the casual player base, just to slowly build them up, right? So no rush at all whatsoever. This will also reset like Memory of Chaos and Spiral Abyss, but we are not exactly sure how frequent they reset, because if you were to take Memory of Chaos, for example, it used to be every 2 weeks, I believe, then they make it every 3 weeks, and every 4 weeks, and now it's every 6 weeks because they added more and more. So for now, it is not exactly fixed. We're gonna see what they have to offer in version 1.0, right? So that is gonna be one of our main endgame content. The other one is gonna be our Holo Zero, which is not really exactly, but very, very similar to Simulated Universe. You will be using a team of 3 roguelike elements. You have different buffs, different paths, right? You can make the same buffs within the same faction and you unlock certain bonuses. So it is very, very similar to Simulated Universe, or if you have been playing Warring Waves, it is very similar to the Elusive Realm, and just an overall very chill, no stamina, play it when you will. Weekly rewards, you can also get them based on a license pass, which is exactly the same as Simulated Universe, up to 5,000 experience, which will give you a lot of different goodies, right? So these are the 2 main endgame content we have for Zenless Zone Zero at the current moment. Shop guide. This is going to be for my not so relatable players, right? Not so relatable players. In Zenless Zone Zero, the store system is pretty much 99.99% exactly the same as Honkai Starbucks as well as Genshin Impact. Order of value is going to be going from the monthly pass into the battle pass, and then monochrome for 6480 all the way to 60. All right, so this is exactly the same pricing, same as HSR, same as Genshin. If you're thinking of getting stuff, get the monthly pass and then get the battle pass, and then you from the order of largest to smallest, that's going to be the highest value, right? So nothing much to say. The battle pass, exactly what does it contain? That's gonna be, we're gonna take a little more of an in-depth look in the future, right? As well as these battle pass weapons. So we're gonna take a look at it in the future, but that's gonna be the rough order of value if you're considering on spending money in this game. And then going for the other shop guide, which is going to be the Signal shop. This is essentially your Star Glitter shop, or basically the Undying Embers from Honkai Starbucks, where every single time you pull for a unit in the standard or the limited pool, you'll get this new currency, which you can use to buy some certain stuff, right? You roughly get 40 residual signal per 10 pool from the standard / limited banner. And then the Annies, this is the Annipi, it's gonna be the Annies. You can get it only from the Pangbu banner for Pangbu upgrades, right? So that's gonna be that. The first thing you guys should absolutely get is gonna be these 2 items over here, which is gonna be the encrypted master tape and the normal master tape. These are basically your summons. First 5 is at 50% discount, so you always get this number 1, no questions asked, every single month. Other than that, all these little things over here, these little balls, they are your engines, and they are basically your standard 5-star weapon, or your standard 5-star light code, or your standard 5-star engine. It is basically this game's equivalent of a 5-star weapon, right? A signature weapon for our standard 5-star units. Do you need it? Not really. It will be better for you guys to just first to make sure you get this first, and then think if you really, really want one of this, right? So it does take quite a while to actually get up to 1,200. So that's gonna be that. It also has some A rank dupes. You can see over here, the buff guy, all that kind of stuff. So you could get A rank dupes from this stock, but for the most part, it is not really recommended to ever use your currency to get A rank dupes, because it is just not efficient. You will eventually get them over time anyways, and idolants or the dupes you get in this game, it doesn't really change a lot, right? So not really recommended. And then finally, we also get a little bit of a level up pack, which is something new, right? So every single time you level up, I believe it's every 10 levels, you get a free level up pack. So just go ahead and claim them if you can remember, right? So that's gonna be that. And now jumping into one of the second last part, the combat mechanics. HP, attack, defense, crit damage, it is completely self-explanatory, so I'm not gonna be explaining this anymore. Impact, now this is basically your weakness break efficiency. So you think about how quickly do we break the target using this thing called daze. So the faster, or rather the more impact your character has, the more daze they will apply with their attacks. The moment your enemy reach 100% daze, that's when they'll get stunned or like weakness broken, and then they'll receive more damage, and you can trigger the coordinated attack on cards. So this impact is basically your weakness breaking ability. Anomaly Mastery and Anomaly Proficiency. These two sets over here, it is basically a DOT efficiency / DOT damage. Mastery is how fast you apply the anomaly. Proficiency is how much damage an anomaly does. So for example, Grace, right? Grace is kind of like a debuffer, and she applies the electro shock and all kind of stuff. So if you give her high mastery, then she can apply shock much faster, and the proficiency will allow her shock to deal more damage. So that's gonna be how this goes. Energy regeneration. Now this is only your special or the skill. Ultimate is shared by this decibel rating over here, so it is unaffected by your energy regeneration. It is basically how fast your units can charge your skill, right? So that's pretty much it. Energy regeneration. Decibel rating, it is obtained via dodging, attacking, parrying, all this kind of stuff by all 3 party members. Upon reaching 3000 decibel, you will allow 1 unit to use ultimate. Keep in mind, this is 1 unit to use the ultimate, which means in Zenless Zone Zero, you should only be using your main DPS, or rather the most important ultimate, because ultimates cannot be shared. If you use Ellen's ultimate, then the 3000 will reset back to 0. So you can't do shit like Ellen's ultimate into like your Wolf ultimate into like a Hui ultimate. Only 1 unit can use ultimate because this is going to be shared, right? So keep that into consideration. Then daze, like I mentioned, is going to be the toughest bar. 100% equals stun plus receive more damage. And then this right here, this little yellow bar, you can see that there's a little bit of a brackets over here, right? This thing. These are called assist points, which are what allows you to parry attacks in this game. In Zenless Zone Zero, although parry is one of the name of the game, right? Parrying is one of the most important. You are actually quite limited by this assist points. If you do not have assist points, you are unable to parry attacks. So you can see if you play the game in Zenless Zone Zero, you'll notice that the attack animations from bosses, when they can be parried, it will be yellow. So whenever enemy does a yellow indicator, you swap your teammates, you perform a parry. But if you run out of the assist points, so if this goes to 0, you are no longer able to parry because all of the attacks from the enemy will become red. Red attacks means you have to dodge. Maybe in the early game, you wouldn't feel that much against the bosses, against the mini mobs, the elites, or some of the easier bosses. It is quite easy. But what the players have realized, especially the CM community, for endgame bosses, it takes a while to actually daze the target. And you only replenish this from dazing, and then you cast a coordinator. Because it takes quite a while for the boss to get dazed, the time it takes for you to replenish this assist points, it can be a little bit annoying. So take that into consideration. If you do not have points, it will just switch to the dodge and all enemies attack will turn red. And keep in mind, only melee units can parry. Your range units, so if you're going to be using Grace, if you're going to be using Billy, if you're going to be using Nicole, if you're going to be using all these units, then they can't parry. They can only use the dodge, right? So something to keep in mind. Pen ratio. Higher pen ratio is close to more defense ignore. Pen ratio is basically defense ignore in Zenless Zone Zero. Insane. Now jumping into the second portion, that's gonna be basically how do we categorize our units, right? Classes, factions, and elements. For our classes, we have 5 main classes: attack, stun, anomaly, support, and defense. Attack is your main DPS. Stun is gonna be kind of like your breaker. It builds the daze more efficiently. So stun units usually have a much higher impact, whereas your attack just deals as much damage as possible. Anomaly applies debuffs, supports provides buffs, and defense, well, it has a lot of durability. And right now in the game, we only have one singular defense, which is gonna be the bear, right? The big bear. That's the only defense we have. So that's gonna be that. And then we also have different factions. Right now we have Battleball Heavy Industries, Criminals, and Investigation HSRT, Cunning Harris, Oboe Store, Session 6, Sons of Kaladin, as well as Victoria Housekeeping Co. So that's gonna be the factions. And element is gonna be physical, fire, ice, electric, and ether, right? So the factions and element, you will notice that some of your units have synergies with one another. So you can take a look at one of the units' passives. You can see that if this unit is paired up with another, like for example, Victoria Housekeeping, you get the additional buffs. Then this also applies for if the same elements and you get the additional buffs, right? So try to match up your factions and your elements to obtain various buffs for your team. There's also elemental resistance in the game as well. So try to match the right element against the right enemy. Similar to how in Wuthering Waves, if you're gonna be using a Havoc Rover against like, an enemy Havoc Rest, you're not gonna be having a good time, right? So something like this. Team building, the general team building in Zenless Zone Zero is gonna be resulting in roughly 1 attack, 1 stun and 1 additional from either anomaly support or defense. Attack is the highest DPS / burst percentage in the game. Stun is absolutely crucial because daze is a very important mechanic in Zenless Zone, much like how weakness breaking is very, very important in Honkai Starbucks, right? You want to daze the enemy because the moment you daze, not only are they stunned, not only do they receive increased damage, but it also allows you to do your chain attacks. Chain attacks is where the moment you daze, you can use 1 hit and you switch another and do another hit and switch another and do that, and it also replenishes your assist points, right? So dazing the enemies is absolutely crucial. So you absolutely want to have a daze. Every single team you will want to have a daze, right? And the last slot is quite flexible. Usually what people tend to do is just slot in one of these classes, one of these elements to trigger a bonus to make our entire team do a little bit more. So for example, the current strongest tier 0 team through endless testing in CBD3, CBD2, and this has been pretty universally accepted by both CN and Global, is going to be our Ice team. Ellen, Lycon, and Sokaku, pure Ice, mono Ice, 2 Victoria Housekeeper. It is the absolute highest best team you can get right now. Ellen is our tier 0 DPS, Lycon is going to be our tier 0 stun, and Sokaku is one of our tier 0 support, right? So very, very nice team. So if you are going to be pulling for Ellen, then suggestion, if you're a meta player, get Ellen, try to get Lycon, and then get Sokaku. That's going to be a tier 0 team. One of the strongest, if not the strongest, across the game, across the board. That's going to be right. So well, I'm not going to be talking about meta stuff today. Stay tuned for the future video, right? So that's going to be that. And one last point before we end off today's content, that's going to be the early progression in this game, right? So very, very similar to Honkai Starbucks. The most important tip, if you're not going to read all that, just don't farm your disc drives. Don't farm relics, don't farm artifacts. Save those for level 40. Please, please, please do not dump your stamina into these drives. It is extremely inefficient and you can quite literally brick your account. So just don't do that. Level up your characters, level up tracers. Number 1, most important thing, absolutely most important thing. So that. Focus on unit levels, tracers, engines, and ascension. And because every single stamina cost in Zenless Zone Zero, they have been removed because devs listened, you can power through your story, your side quests, your tags, your text bubble. You can get a lot of progress done within the day itself, especially on launch, and just keep progressing because there's absolutely 0 stamina cost. Also, remember to drink your coffee from the coffee shop, as well as the lucky scratch from the little husky, the little doggo. If you're lucky, you can also get polychromes for you, right? So some of the daily things you can do, mini games, all that kind of stuff. That being said, you will eventually hit a level cap in Zenless Zone Zero, even if you just were to power through story, because there is a soft level cap. Even though there's no stamina, there will be a level cap. And to raise levels after that, you will need to spend your batteries, right? So that's going to be that. It is quite difficult for casuals to hit this level cap because casuals, I mean, assuming that people don't spend like more than like 10 hours on the game, you can slowly, you won't really feel this level cap, but for hardcore grinders, you are definitely gonna hit it eventually, right? So that's gonna be that. Another point, raising units before level 30 is very, very cheap. You need very little Denny's, you need very, very little trace materials, promotion materials. So relatively, it is a time for you to explore, right? This is the game's way of telling you, go ahead, explore, build what you want, try who you want, and just get a more comfortable feel with how Zenless Zone is gonna be like. Eventually, post level 30, so going to level 40, 50, 60, all that kind of stuff, that's when the resources will become exponentially more expensive. That's when you really don't want to divest that much anymore. You kind of want to just lock in and just focus on 3 units. And yes, 3 units first. You do not need 2 teams. Focus on your main team and then slowly over time, couple of weeks, and then build up your second team. Because that's how it's been like in Honkai Starbucks and Genshin Impact. Your main team, majority, if not 90, more than 90% of the content in Zenless Zone Zero, they are all single team content. The only exception is going to be your defense, right? That's when towards the end of the defense, you'll need 2 different teams. Don't worry about it. Just focus on 1 team. And specifically for leveling, focus on your DPS first. So if you're going to be pulling for Ellen, raise up your Ellen as much as she can possibly can, because she's going to be the one dealing the most amount of damage and just clearing the mobs and just overall make your progression in the combat system a lot more comfortable. In fact, it is quite advisable to just leave your main DPS 10 levels above your supports and your other 2 units, and it's going to be completely fine, right? So that's going to be a little slightly more optimal way going about doing it. And one last note, every single unit in Zenless Zone Zero, they're all viable, right? I love using this word viable. In MiHoYo games, pretty much you can never go wrong regarding what units you're going to use. There's no such thing as this unit is going to be break your account if you use this unit. Every single unit, they're viable. But with regards to what is optimal, who is tier 0, who deals the most amount of damage, that is going to be, stay tuned for our next video where we jump into Zenless Zone Zero's tier list, right? So that's going to be that. And with that, we have come to the end of my very first Zenless Zone Zero guide, featuring pretty much a beginner's guide, just a rough overview to understand what the game is going on. If you have any comments, drop down in the comments below or join the Discord at discord.gg/Pokke. The community on Zenless Zone Zero on the database, That's twitch.tv. That's all I have today. All the best for your Allen pools, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.